Now I'm going to split this condition up into multiple lines just to make it a little bit easier. So we create the variable, I go into a new line, and I go forward. I'm going to go forward 2 spaces. No, actually 1 space. As long as it's not 4 spaces or a tab, it's just 1 line, so it's like it's just continuing to the next line. So the condition is going to be equal cross, how did I write it? Was it capitals? Yes, they were capitals. Cross over confirm, and we're going to pass the variables into it. Remember, we're passing an x and a y. We're going to pass the value of ck and kj. Okay. Now remember though, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. The keygen line goes all the way up to the current price. So if we were evaluating this function today, that candle right there, Chiku is in line with the current price. But, sorry, repeat that, replace this. The keygen line, the red line, is in line with today's price, but the Chiku is back here because we've offset it. What we're wanting to know is the Chiku line crossing the keygen line? And if we just simply say that, we're basically saying is the current closing price, which is what Chiku is the current closing price crossing the keygen line. And we don't want to know that. We want to know is the current closing price, which is the Chiku, crossing over the keygen line when it was 10 periods ago, which is what we've set the Chiku offset to. So what we do is we then have to say we don't want the current value of the keygen line. We want the value of the keygen line as it was ck offset periods ago. So we need to take this variable, the ck offset, which is what we're actually wanting to look at, and we're going to use square brackets. So square bracket, put in the offset, and close it off. So what that is saying is, I mean, if I wanted to, I could just hard code the number 10 in there. And what that is saying is, pass in the value of the keygen line 10 periods ago. But obviously, because we're using variables and they can change, that's why we use the variable. So we are saying the current Chiku line, the current Chiku value, which is the current closing price, and the keygen value, which was ck offset periods ago. Alright, so that can sometimes throw a few things. So if that is true, if we get a true value when we pass those two variables into this function, if we get a true, I want to return into the variable we created here, Chiku x kj, I want to return the value of a positive 1. However, on the other side of the equation, if we have the cross under, so let's take this, I'll just type it out for you. So if the crossover confirm function returns a false, or it doesn't return true, then let's try a different question. Let's say, well, if it didn't cross over, did it just cross under? Maybe it did that. So let's go that. So cross under confirm. And we're going to pass the exact same parameters. So we'll just copy that. Cross under confirm. Ooh, yep. And we're going to call, if it crossed under, we're going to give that a value of -1. So what that's saying is we're basically saying this. First of all, did it cross over? So for example, let's say right here, did it cross over? Yes. What about here? No, it crossed under. What about here? I didn't do anything. If it crossed over, tell me about it by saying 1. If it crossed under, tell me about it by saying -1. If it didn't do either of these things, then let's return 0. And I'll explain why we do that in a moment. Okay. So now that we've got this variable returning 1, -1, or 0 for whether the condition is happening up or happening down or just not happening, we are going to plot an arrow at the current state of play, so the current candle, if one of these things happened. If it didn't happen, well, then we don't need an arrow, obviously. So let's we need to decide what color candle. So let's decide on the colors first of all. I'm going to follow along this same sort of principle. So the variable that gives us the 1 and the 0 is ckxkj. Let's now add to the end of that color up. So if it's crossing above the line, let's give it a certain color. And that, let's just, for the sake of making it whatever, give it a purple color and a 0 transparency. So if it's crossing above, we're going to get a purple arrow. And just to make it quick for now, if it crosses down, let's say, should we make it, yeah, let's just make it short color down, and we'll just give it the same color. But we can change these easily once we've got them written. So now that we know what colors are going to happen with the arrows, we want to know, well, we're going to plot an arrow. In other words, not this kind of arrow, we're going to go vertical up or down arrow. So that's how we do this. Now we're going to use another function called, it's kind of like a plot line, but it's not a line, it's going to be plot arrow. And it's very similar to the way that we plot our lines. We're going to plot a value. So first of all, we are going to open parenthesis, and we're going to have a test. All right. So first we're going to give it a condition, because the condition, we may not want to see arrows regardless. So we did that. We had C1 was where we said show Chiku crossing Kijin, so we're going to use that. And at the moment that's a true, so it lets us move ahead. So C1 is C1 true, then we'll move on. And we also want to know if we have got something to plot. So we want to know if we've got a 1 or a -1. If we've got a 0, well, we don't need a plot, do we? So as long as this variable does not equal 0, then we can plot something. So we'll put in ckxkj, or the Chiku span crossing Kijin, has to not be equal. In other words, exclamation point and equal sign is like saying not equal 0. Alright, so this has to be true. Well, C1 has to evaluate to true, which it does because we put it in right there. And the variable ckxkj has to this part of the equation has to evaluate to true. So if we get a cross, then it's not going to be 0, therefore it's true. Okay, moving on. Right, so if it evaluates to true, there we go. So if that's true and that's true, and if they're both true, then that whole side of that question mark becomes a true statement. So if true, then we get to plot the value that has been given to the variable ck cross kj. So in other words, say for example in this situation we did get a cross. Let's just say we did. That means this variable is currently holding a value of 1, which means the arrow is going to plot a positive value of 1. Alright, and just to finish off the question thing, if we don't get, if we did get a 0 or we turn that to false, then we want not applicable. In other words, don't plot me an arrow. Alright, so we've done that, so we know when to plot, when not to plot. Next, let's give it a title. Title equals, let's give it a title saying, well, a condition, for example. Let's say, you don't have to write this, but I'm going to do it. C1, which is the condition that we have, because you may have multiple conditions. And it's going to be called the Chiku cross Kijun arrow. Now the reason why I'm doing this is so that when you go into the settings, if you want to manually change the color, you know what arrow color you're changing. Okay. Next, we are going to have a parameter called color up. Now the thing with the plot arrow, if we click on it, control click on it, we should get this. There we go. We have the series, and the series means the value being plotted. In this case, once we've cleared the true values and we know that we're plotting something, that's the series. So CKXKJ is the series of data that we're plotting. Title, well, I've just done that. Now we have color up and color down. And what that means is if the value that the series that we're plotting, which is right there, if it's a positive value, then we'll get an up arrow. If it's a negative value, we get a down arrow. And that's why in the variable here, we had it so that if it crossed up, we gave it a positive 1 value, and if it crossed down, we gave it a negative 1 value. And if it didn't do either, then we gave it a 0 value. So the parameter is color up is equal to the color that we specified for color up, which is why we did that. Color up equals purple. Color up equals purple. Next, color down. Color down, D-O, yep, yep. Color down is equal to the color we want when it goes down, like so. Now, if we have a look at the control, click that again and have a look. The next thing, minimum height and maximum height. So, how big do you want these arrows? So, I'm going to go max height first. So let's go to here. We're going to go max height equals. Now this is a fairly good signal, so I'm going to give it a higher value. So I'm going to give it a value of 90, and the minimum height. It doesn't really make much of a difference in this case because we're only plotting a 1 or a negative 1. So let's give that, let's give it just, I don't know, 50. Cool. Okay. Let's see if we can save that and see if we get any errors. So hit save. If that disappears, the red asterisk disappears. Oh, awesome! There we go, no errors. So now we can see we have some purple arrows. And so let's turn off the Q mode. Let's turn off the Tenkin. There we go. Alright, and actually while we're at it, let's just hide the candles. There we go. Oh, now we were using 10 before, so let's wind Chiku back to 10. There we go. Okay, so the current price is right here. Just to let you know, right there, that's where the current price is. And at this point, we had a crossing down, which would have been, when that happened, But remember that we had to confirm it by one candle. So if I go to, say, that's when it crossed, because remember that's the value that it's actually using. So it needs to have been that point there. It has to have crossed one bar ago, and it has to be less, so that's crossed down. So if I then measure from that point to there, where are we? There, that's where the arrow occurred, and there's the 10 bars. Alright, so that's working. Now the cross up arrow, if I do that, if I go from the arrow to, and we go back 10 periods, there we go. And let's take this arrow, let's delete the arrow, do another one. That's where the cross happened. So it wasn't crossing there. It looks like it did cross there, which means it confirmed it right there. 10 periods ago. Cool, man. So let's turn the candles back on because I know some of you are just freaking out. There we go. Cool. So now we have the ability to show purple arrows when it crosses up or down. And we also have the ability to say, you know what, let's not show that signal, we'll turn it off. And the arrows disappear. Cool, eh? So now that we've got that signal going, what if we wanted to set and forget? Let's say we wanted this to happen, but we wanted to be alerted. Let's delete that for now. Yep, delete that. We wanted to be sent an email when that happens. That would be cool, wouldn't it? So if we wanted to set an alert, we could say, well, we want to set an alert using not the price, but we want to use the MyIchi indicator. So we're going to use that. And what condition do we want to use? Well, what do we got? We've got crossing, crossing up, crossing down. We've got all sorts of things. Moving up, crossing up. What does crossing up do? Crossing what? Value. Well, we could use the value of the Chiku line. Well, that's not exactly what we want. We're wanting the Chiku line to cross the Kijin line, but remember the problem with that is that that's going to use the value of the Chiku line at the current price. So this is going to cross the wrong time, so we don't want that. What we want to do is we don't want that. We want it to cross 10 periods ago, or whatever offset we've chosen. So we want to create our own custom alert. Alright, this is going to be cool. So let's try this. Underneath the plot arrow, the function we're going to write here is called alert condition. So alert condition, and we put parenthesis in there. So now let's have a look. We control click on that and we get a dialog box all about the alert condition. And the alert condition has 3 parameters: the condition, a title, and a message. So let's build it up. The condition. What is the condition all about? So the condition is going to be, well, we want to know when it crosses above the Kijin line, and to do that we can use the ckxkj variable, and that the condition needs to be when that is equal to 1. That's it. That makes that condition true. When that has a value of 1, the condition is true and it will alert you. Let's give it a meaningful title. So let's call it, make it short, let's call it the C_1. Well, we'd go long, wouldn't we? Long signal we could call it anything we like. We could say, you beauty, she's gone up, whatever. Next part of the parameter is the message. Now, message is going to be, let's see, this is what's actually going to be emailed to you. So it's going to be, message is actually, let's call it, well, let's say what it is. C1, Chiku and Kijun crossed. That's what happened. I see, crossed. Let's make it a bit more meaningful. Let's crossed over. Actually, you know what? Let's rewrite that. It's Chiku crossed over Kijun. That's much better. Right. So that's our alert condition. Now, if it crossed over, well, it can also cross under, right? So let's make a different one. Let's copy that. We'll make the condition where it equals -1. It's going to be a short signal, if you want to do that, and the message will be that Chiku crossed under the Kijun. Buy and sell, if you really didn't know what that was all about. Alright, let's hit save, and let's see if we don't get any errors. Wait for the little red asterisk to disappear. Alright, cool. So now we have that, and now if we go into our alerts, we choose our indicator, my Ichi, but now we have, under the condition, we have our C1 long signal, which is, remember, what we called it right here, the title, and we have our C1 short signal. So if we choose our long signal, the message is what we've described here. C1 Chiku crossed over Kijun by, and we could create that signal, and then when that fires, it should send you an email, or however way you've done it. So you can send an email, you can send an email to SMS, you can send an SMS, play a sound, show a pop-up, whatever you want. It could expire. You might want to change the expiry to whenever you want. The options, do you want it to happen just once, or do you want it to happen once per bar close? So once the bar closes and creates a new bar, if that condition was true, it would send you the email, or every minute, maybe not, once per bar. So if it happens once within that bar, that's it, it's happened. Safety wise, if you're wanting to really get confirmations on it, I would probably go once per bar close. It may be a little laggy. You may not get the most optimal entry point if you're playing the short candles, but if you play in the long game, you're doing the long con, 4 hours or daily, yeah, you're generally in it for a longer period of move. So longer move. So it's up to you how you want to do that. Cool. All right. So we've done that. Was pretty cool. We've got the ability to turn options on and off by having the question mark and colon strategy technique. I'm dubious to call it the if-else statement, because that's coming from Excel or other programming, and you're not actually writing the word if, and you're not actually writing the word else. That's a different topic. So the question and answer technique, maybe you can call it that. All right.